This is Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. Once again, here's Paul Swann.
We're opening up the phone lines for you, 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Our text line is open as well, 304-523-2275. Thundering Herd with the victory today over FIU, 38-0, moving to 5-3, 3-1 in conference play, while FIU now dropping to 1-7. They're 0-4 in league play. They are now no longer bowl eligible. They do not have an opportunity unless we just run out of teams to play in bowls. But their season will be coming to here in a few weeks, a disappointing end, while the Thundering Herd still a chance to win the Conference USA East Division, one game away from bowl eligibility, so things are looking up for the Thundering Herd. So we're going to break this game down for you. We'll get your phone calls in, as I mentioned again. Let me give you those numbers, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255, and our text line is open. It is 304-523-2275. We're going to hear from Marshall head football coach Charles Huff in a few minutes, get his thoughts on the victory. I would say this has been a more enjoyable game, even though it was a blowout, than we've seen over the past few weeks, because it felt like it was not 100%, but it felt like it was more of a complete performance. You expect this type of performance if you are a Marshall fan. Is that fair to say? And FIU, a team that came into Jones C. Edwards Stadium not having the most success, and you thought, okay, Marshall should be able to have some success against this team. And I really thought we would see maybe a little higher score here from FIU. I thought FIU was capable, but the Marshall defense locked down today on this squad. That's the one thing that, looking at, they were only able to manage. If you look at what they were able to do, they were only able to manage 108 yards rushing, passing 180, a little bit better there. Marshall, 210 yards passing. Marshall was 24 of 31. No interceptions, that's good. FIU was 18 of 35, one interception. Marshall was getting almost 7 yards a pass attempt. And Marshall was able to put up over 450 yards. So things were going well for the Thundering Herd. You look at some of the performances today. I thought Grant Wells, 20 of 25, 184 yards. He didn't have a passing touchdown. Didn't matter because the ground game was here today. The ground game was here. Rasheen Ali, 133 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Sheldon Evans had 1 touchdown, 70 yards on the ground. Ethan Payne, 14 yards, 1 touchdown. Grant Wells, he had 9 yards, 1 touchdown. So the ground game was successful for the Thundering Herd today. But let's not count out what the receiving core was able to do. Ball got spread around a lot. Shadid Ahmed with 52 yards. Xavier Gaines with 40 yards. Willie Johnson with 43 yards. Rasheen Ali also got into the act. He had 15 yards. I said the receiving core did not get into the end zone today. The running game got the touchdowns, but receivers were all over the place. You had several receiving opportunities, I think. And with a game like this today with the weather, I don't think that Marshall really needed to worry about the passing game as much. I mean, sure, all your receivers are grabbing yardage for you, but the guys on the ground were really grinding for you. That was kind of my just looking over the game observation, that I was pretty happy with what the run game was able to do today. And, the Marshall defense, pretty good, locking down. So we're going to hear from Coach Huff. That's one thing that we're going to do here in the next segment. We'll get his thoughts. We have got your opportunity to give feedback. You can do so by texting us. The text line is now open for you at 304-523-2275. And, of course, you can be a part of the phone lines this hour at 877-420-8255. So we've got options for you. Text line is open for you now. We will give you an opportunity to jump in, give us your thoughts. Let's see. Already, question was asked, what happened during Huff's and Davis's handshake after the game? Looked like Davis was trying to give him some strong words. I mean, Marshall did not stop. That's one thing to say about Coach Huff is he's not going to stop. He did put other guys in, but he didn't stop. This wasn't a situation where you're calling the dogs off. You're giving other guys opportunities to go out there and perform. And so, yeah, the game was starting to get out of hand. You lose at 38-0 if you're FIU. And, of course, to be honest with you, Coach has got some issues there. FIU, Coach might not be there much longer. He is in a situation where FIU has not performed. FIU thought to be a team that could compete with Butch Davis there. Hasn't been the case. So, unfortunately, coaches sometimes get hot after a game. I wouldn't put too much stock into it. These teams will meet one more time next year. Then Marshall will be off to the Sun Belt. And you never know when the schedule will allow for Marshall FIU to happen again. But I wouldn't put too much into this. Coaches get hot sometimes. If you want to be a part of the program, you can do so. Again, the text line is open now. It is 304-523-2275, 304-523-2275. We're going to hear from Coach Huff, get his thoughts on the victory. He's going to talk to us about the squirrel. That's another thing. We got to talk about the squirrel. I never heard the Joan get that loud. 18,466 in attendance, and for the squirrel, very loud. The squirrel needed a scholarship offer. That was asked of Coach Huff. We're going to hear about that. We'll get player reaction. We'll get your phone calls, your text, all of that. We'll take a look at what's happening in Conference USA. All of that still to come. You're listening to Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up.
We're putting the wraps on your college football game day. This is Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. Once again, here's Paul Swann.
All right, we're wrapping it up for you. We're going to hear from Coach Huff in just a moment. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be a part of the program with our text line, 304-523-2275, 304-523-2275. I know it's a long wait between the end of the game to get to me, so for those of you sticking around with me, I appreciate it truly. Thanks for being a part of tonight's edition of Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. We've also got our phone line. We'll open that up for you here next segment at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. I've got Coach Huff. I want to get his complete comments about the game. He had a little fun. You get a shutout. That's hard to do. It's hard to get a shutout. Unless you're Nick Saban, you're not shutting teams out too often. Also, Marshall convincing win against FIU. That was, I think, more important than anything. Marshall went out and won that game. There was no question. There was no doubt that Marshall would win that game. That's what I liked most about that. And the squirrel. Everyone's talking about the squirrel. The squirrel that invaded Jones C. Edwards Stadium. For all of that, we have got in its entirety Marshall University head football coach Charles Huff's comments after the game.
Obviously, really good performance tonight. Really proud of the players. Probably had our best week of practice last week we had all year, from an energy standpoint, from a focus standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. And I told them, we can't leave it on the practice field. And I thought tonight the players did a phenomenal job of taking it from the practice field to the game field, executing consistently. We're starting to play a lot more consistent, which is good. Obviously still got some things to clean up, but made some improvements. Probably the first time all year we didn't turn the ball over, which was really good. And we got a couple turnovers, which was great. Got some young guys in there. Last game we got some young guys in there and they didn't finish quite way, that we wanted them to. Tonight I thought they did a better job. A lot of positive. Thought the O-line did a really good job today. Obviously, we were able to run the ball, which kept us ahead of the sticks. Ali and Shell did a phenomenal job of breaking tackles and getting to the next level. But O-line did a good job of getting them started. Then I thought Grant played probably his most consistent game all year. He distributed the ball, made really good decisions, was able to pull it and run it when needed. So really good, really proud of these guys, really proud of these coaches. It's hard to get a shutout in college football, man. It's really hard. So hats off to Coach Guidry and the defensive staff and the defensive players. We will enjoy this for a few more hours, enjoy the recruits we have on campus, and then get back to work tomorrow for next week. So really appreciate the fans that showed up. This is Huntington weather, man. This is who we are, man. Huntington tough, Herd strong all the way. So really appreciate the fans, really appreciate the student section. Phenomenal. Even appreciate the squirrel. Kind of led us into a scoring drive there. So a lot of good, still some things to clean up, but we can build off of this. I think we're starting to play a lot more consistent. We got to be able to build off of it and learn. So over that, I'll open up with questions.
Did the extra time help with the preparation? Did it help in closing some of those things that you've been working on?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys remember, you asked what we did during the bye week. We went back and did some, young guy development stuff, just some basic alignment, assignment, keys, reads, eye discipline, hands, feet, finishing blocks, tackling. And I think it showed up a little better today. Was it perfect? No, by no means, but it showed up a little bit. We were able to kind of get a head start on FIU, which was good. We were also able to obviously rest some guys to get them, as healthy as possible. So I thought it was productive as part of the plan, and it helped us out tonight for sure.
Coach, you mentioned the offensive line kind of paving the way for things on the ground today. What was it that you saw out of them that made them so successful today? How were they able to accomplish that?
Well, it started in practice, man. Those guys came out to practice this week with a focus and intensity. They got better. They watched film. We communicated better. And I thought we did a really good job of just, communicating and getting movement, not trying to be loose, on our blocks, but getting good movement, good communication. And then obviously doing a really good job of finishing. I think that's kind of been the missing link. You got to finish these blocks. Can't just block a guy. You got to finish. But I thought it started in practice, man. And I've said it, and you guys have heard me say it over and over and over. With unbelievable preparation, it's hard to fail. And I think with our preparation this week, it really set us up for success today.
Seemed like, especially in the running game with Rasheen and Sheldon too, there've been a lot of runs this year where you're just a tackle away, you're one-on-one and not able to slide out of it. Today they were able to get through those tackles, especially Sheldon's run. It seemed like it sort of broke FIU spirit a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if it broke their spirit. They played to the end, but I thought, finally Shell kind of ran strong. He kind of, like you said a couple of times in the past, kind of got tripped up. I thought he ran strong. Coach Lockett did a really good job in the on the bye week of kind of talking about finishing runs on the second level, knee drive, knee lift, keeping your shoulders square, and it showed up today. Did a really good job. That's probably, I don't know if had with Shell's longest run of the year, maybe that he finished. And then we talked about it all week. How do we want to finish? How do we want to finish practice? How do we want to finish games? How do we want to finish class? How do we want to finish community service? Because ultimately it comes down to how you finish. Finish runs, finish plays, finish games. And I thought we did a better job of that today.
Coach, is the squirrel a walk-on, or is he going to get a scholarship after that?
No, actually, right now we don't know if he's going to play offense or defense. He's got cat-like quickness, really good body control, good change of direction. You saw there, he kind of made the 30-yard line miss. But we got to continue to evaluate.
Is that the craziest thing you've had? Go ahead, Keith.
Coach, you talked about the defense and how much that's improved. That team had been getting some chunk plays, and you not only held them below that, but a shutout. How impressive is that?
Yeah, I think, for the last couple of weeks, man, we've just been getting better and better and better. I know earlier in the season, everybody had us buried and gone, and we had some guys out, and, things weren't clicking as well. New defense, as far as the flow and the feel of what, those guys are being asked to do. But we're getting better. We're getting better. Are we perfect? No, but we're getting better. Our guys are getting better on the back end. Our discipline on the back end is getting better. Our discipline and gap control is getting better. That doesn't mean that, it just carries over to next week. We got to go back to the table and start from scratch with practice habits and film study and those type of things. But I thought tonight, it's a couple weeks in a row. Our defense is really starting to play with a lot more consistency.
You mentioned the focus a little bit, and especially with all the talk of the Sun Belt Conference and things changing within Marshall athletics. How difficult is that, especially during a time where you all aren't necessarily preparing for a game, as when that talk started? How difficult was that for the guys to maintain?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, this age group that we live, I mean, they're on their phones. They hear the noise, they hear the rat poison, they read the stuff you guys write. They read the fans on the message boards of how horrible they are. They read that stuff. It's tough as a football coach to try to shelter them from that. But we just talked about it. Let's focus on the things we need to do to get the results we want. All the other stuff, it's out there. We can't hide from it. We know what's at stake. Now, that doesn't mean that we're looking ahead. We know what's at stake. But again, we can't do anything unless we take it one practice at a time, one day at a time, one game at a time, and continue to move in that direction. I thought our leaders did a really good job of forcing guys to, hey, let's just focus on the things we need to do to be successful this week. Then we'll reevaluate. I'm sure we're going to have some guys that, play a bunch of plays a day, got to move some guys around, all of those things. But really proud of the way the players bought into the process, understand that our culture is going to help us prepare, and then focusing on the things we need to do to be successful each week. It's going to change next week. I mean, they're a good team. We're moving in the next team. Things are going to change. Guys change, personnel change, everything. But we got to focus on the things we need to do to be successful each week.
Looked like a really tough injury for Jordan there, and you walked out there. The whole team does. How difficult is that? I know that the game's well in hand there, but that's a kid that's battled for playing time. He finally gets it and goes down with an unfortunate injury there.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to get with the trainers to figure out exactly what it was. But, anytime a player gets hurt, I think they had a couple of guys that get hurt too. And that ain't what you want at all. No coach, wants another player to get hurt, his player to get hurt. But I think what you saw is a team that rallied around a guy that they love. And a guy that didn't play a lot. He's been fighting for time, getting better, putting in a lot of hard work. We'll continue to pray for him, and hopefully the diagnosis is better than we think. But I think you saw what this team is about. Everybody on the sideline, offense, defense, special teams, came out there to dap him up. They even had a guy from their side, which was a former teammate of his, which was really a classy move, come over and just tell him to keep his head up. So obviously injuries are something that's a part of the game. You don't wish it on anybody. These kids work too extremely hard to go out and play this game, and you hate to see it taken away with injuries.
When you look at Grant's performance today, obviously not a ton of big plays, but at the same time, the right play, it seemed like. And he wasn't forcing anything. He wasn't making bad decisions. He was just taking what the defense gave him. Is that part of his maturation process? Yeah,
I think he's getting better. I think we talked about one of the keys to the game was just being efficient in the pass game. That's throw, catch, check it down when you need to, run when you need to, allow us to stay ahead of the sticks. And he did that today, which that goes to the O-line, that goes to the receivers. Guys got to be in the right areas. Guys got to catch the ball, get vertical. Our pass game is starting to have some consistency, which is what we need, moving forward. And I think Grant did a really good job today of managing, the situations. When he needed to throw it and drive it in there, he did. When he needed to check it down, he did. When he needed to, take off and run, he did. I think, that's what we are expecting him to do. He's got to continue to get better each week. And I think that's starting to happen. I appreciate you guys, man, and enjoy Halloween. Appreciate all the fans that came out tonight again. Really appreciate all the recruits that are here. Phenomenal atmosphere tonight in Huntington weather, and we love it. See you guys next week. Go Herd.
All right, Coach Huff, loving the Huntington weather. I don't know about you, but it was wet. It was football weather, though. What do you think? It's fall. What do you expect? You're going to get wet. It's going to rain on a Saturday. You know that. You've been around long enough. So Coach Huff embracing the Huntington weather, the Thundering Herd getting the victory. A strong performance, 38-0 over FIU. Even looking at evaluating the squirrel that took Huntington by storm. Social media talking about the squirrel at the Marshall game. I'm sure it's going to be in some highlight packages as well, whatever the case may be. Fun game tonight. Good crowd. Not the biggest crowd ever at Jones C. Edwards Stadium. Not the smallest either. Good crowd with the weather and the elements. So, what more could you ask for on a Saturday night? Text line is open, 304-523-2275. We had a texter ask earlier about the post-game shake between head coach of the Thundering Herd, Charles Huff, and head coach of the FIU Panthers, Butch Davis. And Texter probably had a better view than I did. I really didn't get a chance to see any of that. But Texter writes, I think Huff was responding to something Davis did on those passes. He was livid on the sidelines about something. I wasn't in the vicinity at that point, so I'm going to take your feedback on that a little bit more than what I might have not saw. So I'll trust that. You guys saw it a little bit better than I did, so I will defer to you. Texter writes, like Coach Huff a lot, but strategy in the beginning was to play super fast, first snap to last of the game. Didn't work for young players, new coaches, cost 3 losses. Credit Coach Huff, adjusted, slowed the game down, the Thundering Herd starting to thunder. I think with any coach, you figure out what your team needs to do and you fix it. And you're seeing the players come along, play better in his system, pick up what he's asking them to do. At the same time, any good coach is going to evaluate the talent, adjust the strategy as needed. If you're trying to do the same things in Game 9, Game 10 that you were trying to do in Game 1, and it wasn't working in Game 1, and you're trying to do it in Game 11, depending on what you're trying to do, is it poor execution? Is it poor scheming? Is it you just don't have the personnel? Whatever the case may be, you always have to adjust. And so far, Thundering Herd picking up the pace. Marshall now in the hunt for the Conference USA East Division. Win the East Division, you get to go to the Conference USA Championship game. So that's what that texter says. You can join us as well, 304-523-2275. We've got player interviews and your reactions. All of that's coming up when we continue with tonight's edition of Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up.
Back to more of Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. Once again, here's Paul Swann.
We're opening up the phone lines for you. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255, with our text line at 304-523-2275. Paul Swann, your host for tonight's edition of Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. The Thundering Herd defeating FIU 38-0 in front of 18,466 at Joan C. Edwards Stadium. It's time now to do player roll call. We've got player reactions from several guys, and let's begin with one of my personal favorites. Always great to hear from Eli Neal. Let's get his thoughts on the victory.
You know, it always seems like Marshall and FIU, there's always guys that know each other on each side. So it seems like this one takes on a harder hitting tone. Is this one where you all wanted to come out and set the tone early and be the aggressor against FIU?
Well, definitely, but I don't think it was because it was FIU. You know, I know we got a lot of Florida guys on this team, and a lot of people know other guys, you know, down there at FIU. But I think we came out and wanted to set the tone for us on our side of the ball. It really didn't matter who we played today. We just wanted to show ourselves what we can do and try to play as close to a complete game as we could.
Is this the most complete game that you feel like this team has played this season?
Yeah, I think this is close. Definitely, I believe so. I'm confident in that answer. I think this is one of the more complete games we played for sure on all phases.
As Stephen, this defensively, or offensively, FIU has prided themselves on big plays. They led FBS in 50 and 60-yard plays coming in. And generally when a team isn't able to get what they're used to, they get a little frustrated. Could you sense that from FIU side at all?
I don't know if I sensed any frustration, from their side. They played pretty poised. I felt like we definitely came in and that was our target to stop the big plays. It wasn't a secret. Everybody in the country know that that's what they pride themselves on. And we just tried to handle everything and just bottle them up for the most part.
How big of a momentum boost is this for you all leading into obviously an important road game next week, but the final month of the season to get back and keep that momentum rolling after the bye week last week?
Well, it's been a saying here in Marshall for a while that you remember what you do in November. So, this is going to be a big month for us as a team. And this win, just definitely was another stepping stone. Yeah, just definitely another stepping stone for the team moving on into November, because we all know what we have at stake. It's not really a secret. So we needed this win as a team today. Great team win.
Eli Neal dropping a little old school, remember November. Got a point. If you you do well the first part of the season, and then you start to fade, you start to drop out in November, fans will not be happy with you, and you sort of get forgotten and left behind. So you got to finish out strong, and you have an opportunity in front of you to go out, win the rest of your games, win the Conference USA East Division. Depending on what happens on the West side, you might have to travel, or you might have to fire up the good old Joan C. Edwards hospitality for the conference championship game, wherever the case may be. Good attitude there from Eli Neal. You talk about Stephen Gilmore, and you look at his performance. What does Stephen Gilmore give you? I'll tell you what he gives you. He is a guy that, I tell you, even though he only had in the game 3 total tackles. He had 2 assists and 1 solo. He also had an interception for 22 yards. That's what he gives you. He gives you that ability out there sometimes to just, be able to expect a big play now and then. So Gilmore with 1 interception, 22 yards there. Eli Neal, of course, 8 tackles, 7 assists, 1 solo. So I thought the defensive guys did well tonight. And speaking of Stephen Gilmore, let's get his thoughts on what the team did to get the win and how he felt about it.
If you would just start us out, talk a little bit about that performance tonight in the game.
I feel like it was a great team win. We came out, we executed, we was disciplined, we made plays, and everything else played out for itself.
Stephen, I know there was a lot of emphasis. You look at FIU, they led the nation in 50-yard plays, 60-yard plays, those explosive plays. How big of an emphasis was that in practice for you all over the last 10 days, and how pleased are you with the performance of the defense in that regard?
Yeah, our coach was preaching that all week. We just try to come out and do our job. In air play, we just try to do what we had to do. And everything else was going to play for itself. It felt good handling our business out there. So, yeah.
Could you tell that FIU's offense was getting frustrated on the field a little bit because they didn't have those plays going their way like normal?
I couldn't really tell, but we just try to come out, execute, play in and play out. We can't really let the chips fall where they may. And just try to make every play we can. We can't really control how they feel. We just can control how we are.
Do you all feel like this defense is starting to come back to where you all are wanting it to be? I know that, there were a couple of games that you all struggled at times, but it seems like the last 3 or 4 games, this defense, minus a few plays, has really started to play strong.
Yes, sir. I think we getting more comfortable with our defense we've been put into now. I think everything's falling into place. Everybody's playing hard. Running to the ball and just doing our job. So it's all coming together. Thank you.
Always polite, Stephen Gilmore. We'll get some of your text reaction in. You can join the program by calling us 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Also, the text line is open now at 304-523-2275. We've got more player reaction to get to. We have got Rasheen Ali, we've got Will Ulmer, and, of course, your reaction to the victory. Marshall wins over FIU 38-0. More coming up on tonight's edition of Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up.
This is Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. Once again, here's Paul Swann.
Marshall's victorious over FIU, convincing fashion tonight. Thundering Herd exploding for 21 points in that second. Thundering Herd ultimately winning 38-0 over FIU. And, of course, big performance once again from Grant Wells. If you look at what Grant's been able to do over the last few weeks, I think he's getting a little bit more confident. I think he's getting a little bit more accurate. I think he has been able to find a way to find the open guy. And, of course, tonight he had a great performance, but the ground game was where it was at. Rasheen Ali with 26 carries, 2 touchdowns. The guys on the front line, they were opening up holes. They were making way for the run attack. And one of the guys that was really making that possible was Will Ulmer. Yeah, he was, of course, one of the big boys up front. Things were looking pretty easy for the running attack. Let's get Will Ulmer's thoughts on the victory.
Talk to us tonight. What you see out there is it was a pretty solid performance.
I'm real proud of our whole team. It was a top to bottom team win. It's just great, to have that in conference play. That means a lot.
Well, how poetic was this for you? We were talking to Alex earlier this year, and y'all drove up, and your all's first unofficial visit was for a 52-0 win over FIU, and your last game against FIU is a shutout win as well.
It really is awesome just to see, and to see it all come full circle. And I never dreamed I would be here 6 years, but here we are, and it's a blessing to be able to play hard football.
What was really rolling early for you all in this one? Offensive line got things going early, and the ground game was consistent throughout.
I feel like our offensive line, as the years gone on, we've had people playing in different spots, and we're starting to get some real chemistry up front. And I think the way that we practice and the way that we prepare really showed out there tonight. And it's just all coming together, and you love to see it.
Will, would you talk about Grant's performance? How do you do tonight as far as you were concerned? It felt like he was really connecting tonight.
Oh, Grant's phenomenal. He's absolutely the kind of quarterback that you want to block for. And, it's an honor for me to have his blind side. And, like I say, he is lights out, and he's a really gifted quarterback. So we're lucky to have that in our arsenal.
Kind of poetic, too, that you're wearing a Ducks Unlimited shirt, considering the weather that we've been dealing with today.
Yeah, it's a good day to be a Duck.
Everybody's been talking about that squirrel, too. Who was cheering on the squirrel the loudest on the sidelines as it was making its run?
I think that was the loudest the Joan got tonight, was when the squirrel scored a touchdown. No, I'm just kidding. But that was pretty sweet. I was pumped up.
For you all moving forward, I know that you've been to FAU before. You know what that trip can entail. What do you tell some of these younger guys that haven't been in that spot and been down to Boca about getting ready for next week and a tough opponent?
We have a tough opponent. FAU is always a contender for the East, and we've had some great battles with this team, and this is a place where I played before. It is a hostile environment. They're going to be yelling at you, screaming at you. They're probably going to Google your name and say something weird to you. But I tell my young guys, when we go on the road, you got to be tough. You got to be ready for anything. Anybody can play at any given moment. You really fall back on your leadership at those times. You got to have toughness and leadership when you go on the road.
Obviously a tough moment seeing young guy Jordan go down late in the game, a guy that's really worked for reps. What do you all say as a team, and a pretty touching moment as you all huddled around him as he was carted off?
Man, that really hurts to watch because he's such a great guy. I going against him every single day, all season long, and he gives phenomenal effort, and he's just a stand-up great guy. And, you really hate to see it happen like that. So he's in our thoughts and prayers, and we're all worried about him. Appreciate y'all.
Will Ulmer, the squirrel was the loudest thing in the Joan. I'm sorry. I know he said he was joking. I'm not. The squirrel was the loudest event. Texter writes, the squirrel had some moves, left, right, stop, and go. FIU running backs could learn something, with a smiley face. Yeah, I think the FIU running backs could learn about that squirrel. All right, the phone line is open. You can join us by calling 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Ed's got a question about quarterbacks. Let's hear Ed. Go ahead. You're on Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to comment about Luke Zaban. I heard that Butch Davis might have been a little bit upset that Marshall continued to run plays late in the game, even though they had second and third string quarterbacks in there. And when Luke Zaban had a running play where he knocked down a 290-pound defensive lineman who had to be helped off the field, and then he had another running play where he ran over a defensive back. I thought Coach Huff was very considerate to take Luke out of the game so that FIU could maintain enough players to finish a game. And so I don't see why Butch Davis was upset. The other question I had is I wondered if you guys had a chance to talk with Rakeem Cato at all. The last time I heard, which was some time ago, he was the quarterback coach for Miami Central High School, which was his alma mater. Did you have a chance to talk to him and what he's doing these days?
I didn't have a chance to actually catch up with him today. I put the feelers out there. We tried to get him on the stage, and We didn't get a chance to connect, but I thought it was great that he's coming back. And so hopefully that means he's going to be back a little bit more, come back to Huntington, see the herd play a little bit more. So I'm optimistic that a lot of these guys that we haven't seen in a few years start to come back. But I know he was working the sideline a little bit and he was out tailgating a little bit. So I'm glad he was back. And as far as the quarterback situation with Coach Huff putting in Luke Zaban and then Cam Fancher, you know, I don't think Coach Huff was trying to run the score up, but at the same time, you can't tell these kids not to go score. You put these kids in, it's an opportunity for these individuals to get some playing time, get an opportunity to go out there and try to execute what Coach wants them to do. You can't just deliberately pull a kid back and say, okay, we're going to put you in here, but we don't really want you to go full steam. No, you put a player in to see what they can do. And I'm sorry, it's against it's against a team that's job is to stop the quarterback. Your defense needs to stop the Marshall quarterback. And same thing with Marshall. Marshall's defense needs to stop whatever player is out there on the FIU offense. I don't think Coach Huff was trying to run the score up, but at the same time,
I don't either. Yeah, I think he did it exactly correctly, and because these kids really work hard. They get a chance to get in there and play a little bit. Are they supposed to take a knee? I mean, that's crazy.
No, they're not supposed to take a knee. They're supposed to go out there and play. And I don't think there was any malice. And I mean, 38-0. It's a bad score. It's not terrible. I've seen worse. And you don't know what's going to happen in a game. Marshall scored 7 in the third, 7 in the fourth. That doesn't sound like trying to run the score up. And Marshall had a few longer drives. If FIU can't stop the drive, that's on Coach there. That's on Coach Davis. It's your job to stop Marshall. And I really think that Coach Huff wasn't intentionally trying to run the score up. You're starting your kids and you're giving other players an opportunity to go out and perform and to learn. And same thing with Butch Davis's team. His kids have to learn, adapt. And I'm sorry, Marshall needed to go out there and win and execute. Marshall did that. If I use 1-7, they're 0-4 in league play. That's not Marshall's fault, except for the one loss.
Well, I thought it was nice to see Luke Zaban. He must be a knows football player. The way he hit a couple guys out there today.
He's a little tough, isn't he? He's tough. All the Zaban kids are tough. And I think you're going to have a Zaban at quarterback at Marshall for the next 50, 60 years. I don't know where they keep coming from. There's so many good Zabans coming out of the area. It's always nice to have a Zaban. Of course, I was an old school Huntington High guy. The Zabans were Huntington East family, back in the day. So I remember seeing Zabans all over the place. They're very talented, all of them.
Yeah, I went to East, and we had some pretty tough players there too.
Yeah, but you know what? As long as I see a Zaban and that Zaban's on the same team that I'm interested in, I'm good, because it was not fun looking at Huntington East and seeing a Zaban on that sideline, because okay, watch out for the kid named Zaban.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. We appreciate your phone call. You can join us as well. The text line is open for you. The phone line is open for you. Well, how do you take advantage of that? Well, it's real simple. It's 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Our text line is 304-523-2275. Speaking of Coach Huff, I don't really think he was trying to run the score up, but at the same time, he was definitely using the running game. Very effective. Rasheen Ali, 26 carries, had 2 touchdowns, 133 yards. Let's get Rasheen's thoughts after the victory.
Rasheen, just talk a little bit about your performance tonight. How did it feel to get back out there and be so successful against this team?
It felt good to be out there. Coming in, we knew we had to run the ball and establish the run game. So we just capitalized.
Rasheen, for you and Shell too, it seems like there have been several runs early in the season in which you've just been a tackle away from breaking big runs. And I think you set the tone 16-yard run, I think your first carry of the game even, coming out in the second half and doing the same thing. Shell's 41-yarder. Did it feel like y'all are starting to find ways out of those tackles and break big chunk plays?
Yeah, definitely. This week we emphasized finishing runs and we were just going hard all week practicing with our runs, and it showed on the field today.
I know y'all as a backfield, obviously, you've seen success and been able to get into the end zone a lot, and Shell's been trying to feel his way through things. How happy was everybody for Shell when he broke that 41-yarder? And it sort of seemed like that was a big momentum play in the game.
It was definitely a big momentum play. I was definitely happy for my boy. That was a great run, and he finished. He did what he was supposed to do. I love it.
Rasheen, did you pick up any pointers from the squirrel on running style, getting into the end zone there? Did you see anything you liked out there from him?
Yeah. He taught me to be patient. The squirrel taught me to be patient and just finish the run in the end zone. I'm just playing. But that was funny, though. It was definitely funny seeing the squirrel.
Just seeing things like that just happen in the middle of a game. I mean, you guys are focused on the game. Next thing you know, it's a squirrel on the field. How do you guys enjoy that moment but still keep your focus?
It was just a fun moment during the game. At the end of the day, we know what we got to do on the field, but the squirrel was it was a fun moment.
Rasheen, you've gone up against your all's defense in the preseason. I seeing what they're capable of. To see them put it all together and have what seemed like, from a gap sound standpoint and a fundamental standpoint, their strongest outing. How fun was that to watch from the sidelines?
Oh, it's always good to see them handle up. They practice hard. We all practice hard. Playing against them is some of the hardest people I ever practiced against, and they just capitalized today. They just did their thing.
What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Reese Cup. Definitely Reese Cup. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, man. You too.
Reese Cups are good. I like Reese Cups. I like the Hershey. Hershey's are good. Snickers. You can't go wrong with Snickers. Twix are good too. As far as I don't know where the hate for candy corn comes from. I'm not on that bandwagon. I do not get the hate for the candy corn. I like the candy corn. So if you've got some of that, Tootsie Rolls are big here at Kinder Communications. Let me tell you, I've got the Tootsie Rolls on my desk, and I say that maybe theoretically because they get picked over daily, so I don't have as many. I got the flavored Tootsie Rolls as well, and those go well. The vanilla, for some reason, the Tootsie Rolls get fought over here, and the vanilla that I have. Yes, I supply all of the candy, it seems, for the company here on a daily and weekly basis. All right, let's get you caught up. Before we call tonight, I've got scores I want to tell you about. I'm starting with Marshall's new conference, the Sun Belt Conference, and right now Georgia State is leading Georgia Southern 14-7 with 11:19 to go in the fourth. Louisiana beat Texas State 45-0. Appalachian State beat UL Monroe 59-28. Arkansas State fell to South Alabama 31-13. That's Marshall's new and upcoming conference. How did Conference USA do today? Well, big game right now in the third. 4:38 to go in the third. FAU leading UTEP 14-10. You kind of hope that UTEP can do Marshall a favor there. Also, North Texas in overtime beating Rice 30-24. It was Old Dominion beating Louisiana Tech 23-20. A future member of the Sun Belt showing out today. Middle Tennessee defeats Southern Miss 35-10. And Western Kentucky doing Marshall a favor, defeating Charlotte 45-13. Our final score, it's Marshall with the win over FIU 38-0. Press conference coming up on Monday. We'll have all the details on the drive at 5 on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. 4, Gabriel Sellards in the studio. And, of course, Kenneth Sellards, Team Sellards, making the show possible. I'm Paul Swann. Once again, the final score, Marshall defeating FIU 38-0. This has been Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up.
This has been Michelob Ultra College Football Wrap-Up. Join us next time for your college football game day. 93.7 The Dog.
WDGG-FM Ashland, Huntington.
And ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
WRVC-AM and W231 BS Huntington.
Proud to be locally owned and operated by Kindred Communications Incorporated.
50-yard line, Vivid Seats has you covered.